to see your lovely faces. So yeah, thanks for jumping on for this Kidman training today. We have Houston with us. He mentioned that he's in California. So if you didn't hear that, you can be jealous of all of the sun and warmth.
Actually turned the air conditioning on twice since we've started. Warming up in here.
He just likes to keep pushing that in. It's good. So Houston, you've been a children's director for 3 years and in ministry 4 years and in ministry for 31 years. 31 years. So I think you told me you've been in every position.
I've everything from parking lot to cleaning the toilets to senior pastor, children's ministry, multimedia, television, radio, youth, college youth, young adult, next gen, children's ministries, outreach. I don't know. I had so many hats on. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. So yeah, I'm excited for the perspective that you'll bring. And so today is talking about reimagining children's ministry. And so, yeah, Houston, are you ready? Can I pass it off to you? Well, let me pray for you first, actually. Let's pray. So God, we just want to give you this time. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you for Houston and the generosity that he has to give his time and his talents to us up here in the cold Northwest. We just ask that you would speak through him today and that you would go before him in this conversation. So yeah, we pray these things in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Well, real quick, let me just get a kind of feel for the room here. How many of you are doing children's ministries K through down, K and down, or excuse me, 5th grade and down? So is this everybody in the room then? How many of you are on staff at the church, meaning they actually pay you to do this? Okay, now how many of you are volunteering out of the goodness of your heart, waiting for that reward in heaven? Yeah, good, okay. And last question, how many of you have been doing children's ministries for more than 3 years? Excellent, okay. I've been doing ministry for 31 years. Now that does not mean I have 31 years of ministry experience. It means I have 1 year of ministry experience 31 times because it's always changed. And look at 2020. Has anybody had that one before? No, that one got its own space on the refrigerator for me because it's just been a weird time. Well, what I want to talk about today is kind of children's ministry, but more ministry in general. And you can, I think you can all see the slides now, right? Everybody have that? Okay, so what I've done is I've tried to put what I'm saying in a visual form as well, because you've all done children's ministry and you recognize they only retain so much of what they hear, but what they hear and see, they get more out of. And what they see, hear, and do, they get even more out of. So we're going to try and blitz you with as many ways here as possible. And Hannah has a copy of the entire talk today, and she'll have a copy and make that available for you in the comment section there. So if anything I miss or stuff that you think, hey, what did he say about that? I want to make sure you've got all of that. And anything we talk about today, any resources or supplies, I've also given you links to those where you can find them on Amazon or bookstores or stuff like that. Because I'm very big on making sure you go away from this time with something you can actually do to apply, not just, oh, that was good head stuff. But I know we're all crying out for stuff that we can do with the kids and how we can apply it. So hopefully when we're done, we'll have that. And the last thing before we jump in is I don't like to lecture. I like to talk. That means if you guys want to say something, just jump out and say, hey, wait a minute, what about? And I'm going to ask you questions too, a lot of questions, because it helps me get a better understanding of what you guys are doing. We've clearly established that Southern California is very different from where you live. And we do things differently. I can actually go outside right now and have a kid ministry event. You can't. I mean, unless it involves scuba gear and stuff. So I want to be able to help you address the things you guys are dealing with right where you are. Here in the southern Southwest district, I get to be a part of something we call Spark meetings, where I literally go to a church on Sunday morning and go through the Kidmin experience with all of their staff and see what they're doing. And then they buy pizza. And after church, we sit down and we spend about 2 hours just talking about what they're doing. And I offer suggestions on here's some things you could try, or you're doing this, why? You're not doing this, why not? So it really is a personal experience from church to church. So some of the stuff we talk about might not work for you. My goal is to spark your creativity to get you to start thinking outside the box. All right. So let's talk about the big elephant in the room. That's not any of you. That's that nasty thing that we call COVID. So let's talk a little bit about the COVID experience. I want us to stop thinking about this last year as a negative in ministry. And I want you to start looking at all the positive things that have come out from COVID. It's allowed us to break away from the stuff that we were stuck doing because it was the tradition. It's the way we've always done things. How many of you have had your normal routine completely blown up? Isn't that great? Isn't it great? Because you were handed 6 different events that they've always done in your children's ministry, and some of them were just dogs. They didn't do anything. They were hours and hours worth of work for very little routine. And you were able to go, oh, darn, we couldn't do that this year, and you got to put on the, I'm really sorry that, but you're inside, you're going, because you hated doing it. So the 2 things I want to talk about a little bit about here is we can't do this because of COVID, and because of COVID, we've tried. So let's talk a little bit about that. This is the point where you unmute yourself so I don't hear you going. And tell me some of the things that you got to try new this year because of COVID. The first person is always the hardest to break the ice. So we're going to skip the first person. We're going to go right to the second person, and then we'll come back and do that first person later. Okay, so the second person, go ahead.
So this year we did a drive-through event, which we have not done in the past, and we did online VBS, which was interesting. And then towards the end of summer, we got to open up a little bit more. So we were able to do like an outdoor family event in our parking lot, which we hadn't done in the past. So.
And this is Idaho.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
What else?
Our harvest party, instead of being in the gym and hot and crowded, we did a drive-through trunk or treat, and that was fun. We had grandparents say they'd never been able to bring their kids because they couldn't walk around, and so it worked really well for the families.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Any other new stuff?
We have children's videos that are happening in every service now that are sort of prep for the sermon, prep for listening to the sermon or connected to the sermon now that everybody enjoys, that never had happened prior to COVID.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
How many of you are live streaming your adult church services? Okay. How many of you are doing something streaming or on a recorded video for your children's ministries? Now, are you making up your own content, or are you using some curriculums and stuff like that? John?
I've made up my own content.
Okay, cool.
But some
We're doing both. So we are doing an intro to our video, and then we're doing the Lifeway 3-year through the Bible, and then
Good.
closing it up and doing the key verse.
Now, are you shooting those live, John, or do you pre-record them and then make them available?
We pre-record them. I just got done videoing one. That's why I'm late.
I've got to go video mine after we're done, so I get it. So,
Mhm.
what curriculums are you guys using out there? Just out of curiosity.
I'm using the Gospel Project.
Okay.
Mhm.
How many of you are using that? Okay, several. Okay. What else? That's the Lifeway one, right?
That's live. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
What else are we using out there?
Prior to COVID, we used True curriculum. And then during this year, we did part of our online programming. We used Connect HQ, which is put on from Life.Church. That's free online. And then the other half of this year, we've done our own programming stuff online and expecting to go back to True at this point once we return to weekend programming.
Bold. Just doing it all on your own now. Great.
With a team, nothing on
Yes,
our
of course. Yeah, we're not stupid. Yes, I get that. Any other types of, is anybody using high voltage curriculum?
Mhm.
That one is what we use, and it is fantastic because 50% of the curriculum is pre-recorded video. So I put together a 35 to 40-minute program every week for our kids. And like John, half of it's my team coming in and acting and stuff and telling the stories, and the other half is the video footage provided by the high voltage curriculum. But a lot of the publishing houses now are offering that mixed genre for us, and we've now shot. Let's see, today I'll shoot my 49th episode of Kidstown Live. We started very early last year in the COVID situation of switching over to an online presence for the kids. Some of it, we've seen a lot of success, high attendance, high viewership, and then down to nothing, to where you're wondering, why am I spending 10 hours a week doing this? But we've convinced ourselves that we have now provided 1 full year of content for our kids to view on our website anytime they want. And all new kids coming into our church now have, 52 weeks of curriculum available for them to use. So it's worth it. It's worth it. All right. So COVID is not the end of what we're doing, and we're going to be coming out of COVID. So I want to talk a little bit about this transition back into what used to be considered normal.
Mhm.
And I want to share with you now, understand this is my philosophy of ministry, and it works for me. It might not work for you. Everybody's got their own personalities and their own style. But I've come up with, over all these years, what I call a tripod ministry. All right. So a tripod ministry, depending on what group you work with, always has 3 legs. So in children's ministry, those 3 legs are children, staff, and parents. Now, if you know what a tripod is, it holds up those cameras you've been standing in front of for the last year.
Mhm.
Any one of those legs that are weak, that's the direction it's going to fail. That's the way it's going to fall. But a lot of us spend all of our energies working on children's ministry, making sure the crafts are ready and that the puppets are in place and everything. And we forget that there's 2 other legs to make sure that this ministry stays healthy and strong. And now this applies to anything. If it's youth ministries, obviously it's youth, staff, and parents. But in all my different ministries, I've always tried to focus on 3 areas that I need to work on. It's made me not become tunnel focused on one group. And all of them, I recognize my staff is the most important. Now get this, even Jesus needed disciples. He picked up 12 guys to help him out in the ministry. And then he had a special team of 3 that he worked with really closely. And I figured if Jesus needs 12, I better have more than that, because, after all, he is God and everything, and I'm not. So staff is super important. And then parents is the one that a lot of times we often forget. In fact, many of you have probably started hearing a phrase called family ministries instead of children's ministries. And we'll talk a little bit about that. So I want to dive into each one of these a little bit. I'm going to share with you my philosophy. Doesn't have to be yours. You don't have to agree with me. You can go ahead and be wrong. That's fine. It won't bother me. But I just want to share with you what I've come up with and what works for us in this particular area, and actually in 7 other churches all across the country that I've had the privilege of serving in. So the first thing we're going to look at is the children. All right. And I want to ask all of you, what are your top 3 goals in ministry for your particular children's ministry? Can anyone tell me their top 3 goals right now off the top of your head? There's crickets in the background. Anybody? How about, okay, let me make it easy. Give me your top goal. What is your number 1 goal? What do you want to accomplish with your children's ministry?
To know Jesus and love Jesus.
Okay, so in a teacher's, how many of you have degrees in education? Anybody? Okay. Remember when they taught you your philosophy of ministry or philosophy of education? It's always the child will or the student will.
Mhm.
So Jeanette, you're saying the student will know Jesus Christ and have a relationship with him. Sounds legit. Good church answer. Good. What else? Are you all going to just use hers?
For me, a big part is the child will have a relationship with one of the staff members. So they're building relationships with their teachers or leaders. That's one.
So I'm assuming the spiritual relationship is there. You're going another step in making sure that they at least have contact with one adult in the group.
Yeah, well, you don't become a Christian in a vacuum, right?
Right.
Usually it's because of the relationships you have with other Christians. And I think that's a first step towards them seeing who Jesus is and becoming Christ followers themselves, is because of the relationships that they're building, the community they're building with leaders.
Awesome. Love it. Love it. Anyone else?
For me, I want them to get excited about God as soon as they go to class.
Excellent.
Also, something I add in is learning how to serve and be part of the church.
Okay, great. So here's my challenge I want to make for you guys. Okay, I think you should have top 3 goals for your ministry. If you have that tunnel vision and you're only focused on one thing, and for me, 3s are always been a big thing. I don't know why. I fold my towels in thirds. It's that weird thing for me. I don't know. But I want to encourage you to have 3 goals every Sunday morning, every Wednesday night, whenever your group meets. And here's the challenge, okay? I want everybody in your church to know what they are, okay? I want every person working with your children's ministry to know what they are. You could stop any person in the hallway on any one of those days and say, what's the top 3 goals for today? So I'm showing you what Kidstown's my ministry that I work with here at Northgate. And this is our top 3 goals. Number 1, the kid feels loved. Number 2, that they feel accepted. And number 3, that they have fun. And as I've explained this to my staff, to my parents, and I've passed this on, you can literally stop any staff member that works with the children's ministry and ask them, quick, what's the top 3 things you're trying to do today? Feel loved, feel accepted, have fun. What's missing there? Now, Jeanette's going, well, what about a relationship with Jesus Christ? That's your number 1 goal, right? You know, and Dwayne's like, well, what about getting connected with an adult? Every one of those things will accomplish those goals. All of those are the pieces of the pie, but the pie tin is in a relationship with Christ. You've seen these pie charts where, I remember, especially in youth ministries, draw a pie chart of the time you spend with God. You know, and the kids are like, okay, well, I got this much in football and this much in band, you know, and then they got this little sliver. When I had one girl one time when I was teaching this, she drew all the things like that, and God wasn't anywhere in the picture. And I thought, this is a teachable moment. I'll bring her up and explain to the, okay, where's God? I don't see God anywhere in there. And she goes, God's the pie pan. Blew me away. Absolutely schooled me in front of the entire youth group. She was so dead on right. Have fun, be accepted, feel loved. But the pie pan is all on Jesus. Now, why do I do that? Why do I particularly make these 3 things my key focus? First of all, one of my favorite verses is Psalm 122:1. I put it up there for you. I rejoiced with those who said, let us go to the house of the Lord. A little bit of hermeneutical study here for you. Do you realize that the guy was happy before he got there? There's a lot of times I've gone to church and I've drug my feet and didn't want to go. But after I got there, I'm like, you know what? I'm glad I went. And I got something out of that. I want to create an environment where the child can't wait to get to church. I think some of the best compliments we've had with Kidstown, I had one parent come up and they said, here in the desert where I live, when it's 115 on the weekends, and that's a cool day, by the way, a lot of people get out of the valley. We're an hour from the beach, we're an hour from the mountains, so a lot of families take off on the weekends. And I had a mother come in with her 2 kids, and she sent the kids off into Kidstown, and she pulled me aside. She said, I just got to tell you, we woke up this weekend and I asked the kids, where do you want to go? And last week we were at the beach. The week before that, we were in the mountains. And they said, I want to stay home this weekend. I miss Kidstown. I was like, I'm still living on that. That was like 2 years ago. But the bottom line is, when you create an environment where the kid wants to be there, when the student wants to be there, you are laying a foundation. It's fantastic. So that's what I want you to start thinking about. What are your 3 goals? And write them down, put them everywhere, print them on every sheet of paper, have them on posters. Make sure every one of your staff meeting, make sure everyone knows these are your 3 goals. Why? Because then every time you meet, you'll be remembering, I want to love on my kids. I want them to feel accepted, and I want them to have a good time. Because I'm laying the foundation for what that child, who will soon become a young adult, will think and remember about church. Now, I know scripture memory, that's important. Not remembering all the books of the Bible, that's important. Having a good working relationship with Christ, that's important. But all of those things will be built into what we consider the top 3 things. Mm-hmm. Any thoughts or questions about that? And you don't have to steal mine. I mean, you can, but every church is going to be different. Some churches are heavier into missions, and some churches are more into outreach. And I get it, but just encourage you to start thinking about 3 goals we want to accomplish every time we meet. Okay? Last thing I want to talk about when it comes to children's ministries, don't try to downsize an adult ministry to fit children. Children aren't mini adults. Now, I've been involved with churches who really think, like, missions, for example, are super important. We want our kids to be ministry focused and missions minded. We want them to know all of our missionaries that we have in China and Uganda and the Ukraine. And so they're really big on missions. But I'll be honest with you, I don't know many 5-year-olds who are going to be going on a missions trip to Uganda. I want them to start thinking, how can I be a missionary on the playground at my school? And that's a lifestyle. And that's the type. So a lot of times people will look at children's ministries and they'll try and, like, okay, so in adult ministry, we have this, and we have this, and we have this. Kids aren't mini adults. They don't think that way. But the other thing is they don't think on adult levels. So what we try to accomplish here at Kidstown is to, as I said, lay a foundation for the future attitudes of church. Any of you have ever done a tour in the youth group? You ever served a term there? Do you realize that 80% of the children who are actively involved in their high school ministries, 80% will drop out their first year of college? Isn't that staggering? To think of 80% of your kids that they're growing up in church, they've had a fantastic experience in your children's ministry, will go through their junior high and their senior high years and then give up their first year of college. You'll only keep 20% of them. Now, here's the blessing. A couple of years down the road, a big chunk of those will come back. They've gone out and sowed their wild oats, per se, and then they came back to church. What I want to try and accomplish with my children is to lay a foundation so that when they're 21 or 22 and they've been out of church for a while and they've been living in the world and they realize what a mess the world is, that they start thinking, at church, I always felt loved. I always felt accepted, no matter what I did, what I liked, and I enjoyed it. I was glad when they said, "Let us go into the house of the Lord." My goal is to create those foundational boards for my young adults to remember that church was a place that they could go and feel safe and be comfortable in. And in the long of the way, they're going to learn the books of the Bible, and they're going to learn the Roman road, and they're going to learn all those memory verses and stuff like that. So that's the children's tripod leg. Any thoughts or any questions? Anything you want to share? So you're all assuming I'm brilliant and I'm relaying brand new stuff that's just world changing to you. Is that what you're saying? I see a lot of you laughing, and that I didn't mean that as a joke. I was being serious, but and now laughing.
I really like the simplicity of this. And for me, I'm fairly new to kids ministry, but I was in youth ministry before, which is, not the typical way. So entering into ministering to parents has been a new part of this. And I don't know, I'm guessing you're probably going to get to something like that, how that works. So great. But yeah, I think I like the simplicity of this, that of moving and talking about those three things, because those are the three things that we talk about a lot.
Right, good. Children seems like where we focus most of our attention, right? Well, let me tell you how you're going to burn yourself out and not be involved in children's ministry very long if that's all you focus on. Let's look at that next one. I wanted to share this picture with you. Y'all see this picture? I got it on my wall. You can't see it, but it's right there on the wall. I fell in love with this picture because children, every time Jesus met with children, every time in the Bible that we see him interacting with children, he's not teaching them the Torah. He's not convincing them the importance of memorizing scripture. He's not going deep theologies through soteriology and all these other things like that, right? And believe it or not, he's not even using cotton balls and glue. What is he doing? He's loving on them. He's playing with them. I love the fact that they're hanging all over him. I've got a guy in my children's ministry. Now, I'm 5'5" with good shoes, all right? I'm not a big guy. In fact, a lot of my kids really just look me right in the eye, and it's very disturbing for me. I've got two guys in my ministry that are huge, 6 foot, massive, huge guys. And they're really quiet, and they're kind of awkward about their size and everything like that. And my kids love them. They're like 5 of them hit him at one time and just cling to his legs. And he walks down the halls with kids on his both legs, and and they absolutely love him. They love the fact that they get to hang on people. How many of you really miss that? I miss hugging my kids. It's really awkward right now because they'll come into the church sometimes, and I'm kind of like, fist hand, whatever, I can't wait till we get to the point where they run in and just latch onto you. This is what I would consider Jesus being a Sunday school teacher. That's what his class is like. All right, enjoy them. Remember, Jesus didn't feel like he needed to teach them all the books in the Torah. He loved on them. The Bible says he laid hands on them and prayed for them. All right. Okay. So let's talk about staff. That's the second tripod. Probably one of the two parts where we are normally the weakest is staff. How many of you are in this all by yourself? Anybody? No? Yeah. Okay. Those people have already died. That's why. Or they've quit and they've gotten out of children's ministry. How many of you have 2 or 3 helpers that you would not be able to pull this off without them? Yeah? How many of you have more than 10 people working in your ministry? 10 people on staff? Okay, that's awesome. I'm going to show you how to have people begging to work in the children's ministry. And I could make a fortune off of paying people with this information. How do you get people to want to work in your ministry.
Hey,
This
Hugh.
is what I call paint the fence ministry style. Paint the fence ministry style. How many of you remember good old Tom Sawyer? Remember back before he was labeled, not a good thing to read? Do you remember the story when Tom Sawyer had to paint a fence? And he hated the job. But when kids came by and saw him, he started painting the fence with all the gusto and had so much fun doing it that the kids are like, I want to do that. I want to help. And then he had kids paying him to paint the fence. Why? Because he had a positive attitude about it. He had fun doing it, and other people saw the joy that came out of it, even though he was probably faking it. But that what they saw was this guy's having a great time. He enjoys doing this, and I want to have a good time. And it's either that or youth ministry, and they don't have a good time. So I'm going to have some fun. So I want to help with this. So how do we create this positive mental attitude about children's ministry? Number one is this: always celebrate the positive. Celebrate is a big word for me in ministry. Positive reinforcement. When you see someone doing something awesome, tell them. Let them know, hey man, really, that was awesome. That kid threw up all over the place. And you were right there on it, man. And I just wanted you to know that was awesome. Or you know what? You saw that one kid who was just kind of sitting all by themselves, and you got up and you went over and you sat down with them. I want to tell you, that is fantastic. I love seeing that happen. Anytime I get in front of my church, I brag on my staff for Kidstown. I let them know that I have a bunch of rock stars, and they live up to my praise every time. I want to tell you a story about a 3-cow wife. Please don't be offended. This is just an old story, okay? In Africa, when a man wanted to get a wife, he would go to the father and he had to give a dowry. So if you got a cow for your daughter, then she was a pretty good daughter. If you got 2 cows for your daughter, then wow, she was really special. But there was this one girl who was not very pretty. She was not very talented. She was kind of a homebody, kind of quiet, little wallflower, not very desirable. And a man came up to her father and says, I'm going to give you 3 cows for your daughter. He's like, what? Like, no, look, I'll take 2 pigs to get rid of her. I'll be fine with that. He says, no, I'm going to give you 3 cows because that's what she's worth to me. And when the woman found out that her soon-to-be husband was willing to pay 3 cows to get her, she started to live up to his expectations. She started to become a 3-cow wife. You can do the same thing with your staff. Set your expectations high, praise them as often as you can, and celebrate with them all of the things that they're doing. And when you do that, other people will see that. I never get up in front of my congregation and say, look, guys, we really need help in the 3rd and 4th grade class. If we don't have any teachers in there, we're going to have to close this down and they're going to have to sit with you in service. We never use guilt. We never do any of that. And I always celebrate my staff to other people. I let them know that it's fun to work in Kidstown. You could sit and listen to the boring preacher, or you can come in there and throw snowballs with kids. And granted, those are cotton balls for us. We don't do what you do, but we always want our adults to have as much fun as the kids. So the second thing is this: be an encourager. Be an encourager. Find stuff that they're doing well, and celebrate that. And when they don't do something well, laugh with them so that they're not crying. I gave you the example of the kid who threw up, right? He just chugged a bunch of water. Here in the desert, we drink lots of water. And this kid tanked up on water before he got into Kidstown. And he was running and active, and he literally just went, wow, and threw water up all over the place. It was just water, but he was embarrassed, and one of my adult men came up and sat down with us and said, dude, that was awesome. Did you see how far you got that? That was amazing. Look, they're having to go way over there to clean that up. I mean, that was a good 6 feet, and we laughed and stuff like that. I pulled that man aside and said, man, that was awesome. You took the whole guilt and fear and embarrassment right out of that. You had fun with the child, and the child was right back into the game afterwards. What I was worried about is more kids were going to try and throw up because, I mean, I was worried that that would snowball into something. But I've also had times where my staff members have failed miserably. And I pulled them aside and said, look, that didn't go well. What can we do to fix this? What can we do next time? What's the learning experience from this? I never criticize. I never rebuke in the sense. I always try to find a positive thing from this experience so that my staff members will feel like, man, I screwed that up, but hey, I'm going to do better next time. All right. So be an encourager. I have a great book I want to encourage all of you to get. It's called If Disney Ran, or what is it? If Disney Ran Your Children's Ministry. You'll get a link to this afterwards. This is, if you're a Disney freak, and again, I live 2 hours from Disneyland, but I love Disney. This is a book about how Walt Disney created Disney World and Disneyland, the principles and the procedures that he did, and how you can apply them to children's ministry. It's a fantastic, if you're a Mickey Mouse fan or anything like that, it's a great delve into the history of the whole Disney process, but also how you can share stuff in your ministry about the way that he did it. Here's one of my favorite quotes from this book right here. Don't place people where you need them. Place people where they need to be. When I get a new person to come in to work with Kidstown, they say, well, where do you need help? I say, that's not how we do that. That's not what we do here. My question is, where do you want to serve? If we stick people where we need them, and that's not their gift and not their passion, they will quit soon. But if you stick people where they want to be, they will lay awake at night dreaming up better and more creative ways to do that. And they become a golden brick in your wall of ministry. And so what? You know what? You're like, man, I'm desperate for a third grade teacher. I've got to have a third grade teacher. You know what? That's not your job. Your job is not to find a third grade teacher. Your job is to wait for God to provide the person to do the job God wants. And you might not get the third grade teacher. You might have to combine first or second and third grade or third and fourth grade. But our job as ministers is not to get staff. We are to wait for the ones that God brings to us and train them to serve. When you start taking that attitude, it takes a whole bunch of pressure off of staffing. You know what? I don't start a ministry until I've got a staff to run it. I assume that it's God's plan for me not to do that until I've got the people he wants in place. Mainly because if I don't feel gifted to do it, I know that that's not where I'm supposed to be. So that's just one of the great quotes out of this book. Love this book. Tons of stuff. I've got so many things outlined and tagged, and it's just a fun book. You'll get the link to that in the resources afterwards. And the last thing is staff recruiting. The best people to recruit your staff is your staff. They know what it means to do it. You don't have to sell it or give a sales pitch. They know what the job entails, and they know people who will do it just as well. So I give all of my staff 3 months to reproduce themselves. I said every 3 months, every one of my staff members has to bring in one more victim or one more volunteer. All right. They all look around, and sometimes it's their husband. Sometimes it's a brother or sister. Sometimes it's they don't even, they just found someone in church that they met. They go, you know what? You'd be fantastic in Kidstown. You'd be great as a storyteller. And because they're the ones asking, they're the best representative for your ministry to do that. And it takes a lot of pressure off of you having to go around and ask for volunteers all the time. Encourage your staff to reproduce themselves once every 3 months. And we all know that there's a high turnover in all of these ministry areas. So that's 4 brand new people for every 1 person. So get this. Some of you said you have more than 10. If you have 10 people working with you on staff, you have now created 50 staff members in 1 year. And you haven't done anything. They've done the work. Allow them to take ownership in the ministry and seek out people that they know can do the job that they've been doing. So any thoughts about staffing side of things? All right, let's move on to parents. Oh, parents. Wouldn't ministry be great if you didn't have to deal with parents? Anyway, so the third leg of the tripod is parents, and this is really key. And I might say something in the next 2 minutes that is going to completely blow you away, and you're just going to write me off as a lunatic from this point on, which, by the way, is probably more accurate than anything else you've been thinking up to this point. God has not called us to train up the children in our church. Look at that again. Your job as a children's worker, as a kidmin leader, is not to train the children in your church. Let that sink in. This isn't your job. It's not your job to have them have a relationship with Jesus Christ. It's not your job to teach them the books of the Bible and to memorize the scripture. It's not your job to teach them how to live a godly life. It's also not your job to get them to clean up their rooms, which surprisingly is a lot of times I get questions about. None of this is your job. What is your job? Your job is to assist the person who God's called to do that, and that's the parents. God's called the parents to do all the things that you thought was your job for all these years. It's not. The Bible gives us overwhelming evidence and proof that our job as kidmin leaders is not to raise the child. That job is the parents. What God's called us to do is to equip the parents for that job, to be a resource for mom and dad in raising little Susie, to be the person they go to with questions or concerns or to cry about or what do I do? Our job is to equip them to do the job. Now I want to show you some scriptures so you don't think that I'm just way off of base here, okay? God, just taking this from the Bible. You got a problem with it, take it up with the writer, not with me, okay? First one is this, Ephesians chapter 6 says this, fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. It does not say children's leader, it says father. The ultimate responsibility for the child's spiritual growth and welfare is the father. I know we live in an environment where fathers are absent in a lot of those cases, so take this as gender neutral, make that parent, if you will. Here's another one, Genesis, let's go Old Testament. For I, this is God, I have chosen him so that he may command his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing righteous and justice. This is God talking to Abraham or talking about Abraham. I've chosen Abraham, and Abraham's job is to raise his children in the way of the Lord. One more. Deuteronomy. You shall teach them diligently to your sons, and you shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. He's talking about the precepts of God, teaching the principles of God's way of life. And he's talking to parents, you shall teach them diligently. So parents, the tripod of parents, the thing we probably all, myself included, am the weakest on is having materials and resources for our parents. And there are 100 great places to get them. So I strongly encourage you to look around for them. I'll share with you what we do here at Kidstown. Well, what we will do when we get back in the building. I send out an e-newsletter probably every 2 months to my parents, just giving them an update on what we're doing, what we're teaching. We usually do 6 to 8 week sessions with our material for the kids. So I always send them, here's all the stuff that we'll be teaching for the next 2 months. My goal is not, here's a conversation that we would like to see happen with our kids. Too often at the end of church, the kids get back in the car with their parents and mom and dad look over the back seat and at the kids and they say, so what did you learn today in Sunday school? Right? How many of you have heard this before? I want to flip that around. So when the kids come to Kidstown, my staff asks them, so what did you learn at home this week? Because that's where the biggest impact is going to be. So I try and provide my parents with all the information I'm going to teach their kids so that they have a chance to use it ahead of time. Do they? No, they don't. But you know what? It's not my responsibility whether they do or not. It's my responsibility to provide them with the equipment to do it. And slowly, over a course of years, I've had some parents pick up on that and do it. So I had something where I was going to go with that, and it right out of the way. I'm still imagining looking over the back seat of the car right now to get that out of my head. Anyway, so our goal is to equip the, oh, I was going to tell you what we were going to do. You know what a QR code is? Little box, you scan your phone with it. Okay, super, super simple. You can actually go to a website and get a QR code. They'll print it right out for you, and you can make it go anywhere you want. So we're creating a space on our church website under our children's ministry that's going to cover a variety of sensitive topics, dealing with your children and sexuality, dealing with porn on the internet, how to get your kids off of their video games, dealing with disrespect with your children. These aren't conversations that you're going to be able to have with David and Nancy Smith sitting at the check-in counter. So what we're doing is we're creating a big poster. We're going to have it right next to our check-in counter. And we're going to say, are you struggling with your child's sexuality? QR code. Are you struggling with disrespect with your children? QR code. And all the parent has to do is take their phone and click it, and click it, and click it. And it will take them to parts of our website where we will update reports and articles that we found interesting on those. What I've done is I farmed this out to my staff members. One staff member who's really, really big on the pornography issue for children online, how prevalent and easy it is. So I said, you know what, give me some websites that help parents adjust to that. Man, he's in it. He's like, yeah, I'll definitely do that. So he sent me 4 or 5 links. So when a parent clicks that QR code, it takes them to a website where all I've done is offered the links. I let the parent do the research, right? This also saves the parent from having to kind of ask embarrassing questions. Most of them won't. Most of them won't come and ask you for help, but they will quickly go click and move on. And then they've got all that sensitive information right at their fingertips. It's one of the ways we are providing resources to our parents to help them become the spiritual leaders of their kids, which is their God-given responsibility. Any other thoughts? Any ways that maybe you guys are doing it you can share with me? All right, that's the tripod. Children, staff, parents. Whichever one of those your ministry is weak in, that's where it's going to fail. That's where it's going to fall down. And you're going to be wondering, well, we had such a fantastic balloon fight in the Sunday school program. Why aren't things going better? This is why. You're either failing your students, or you're failing your staff, or you're failing your parents. Work on all 3 of those, and I promise you, you will have an impact on these kids that will last a lifetime, as well as creating new staff members and strengthening parents to do their God-given responsibility. All right, last thing I want to talk about, and this is the part I really get excited about. You think I was excited before, just wait. Getting ministry outside of the building. COVID, right? Yeah. Ironically, last year, our church theme was Be the Church. In January and February, we were going strong about, hey, the church isn't Sunday morning, the church isn't this, that, and everything else. And then COVID struck, and we're like going, wow, boy, was that perfectly timed. Getting ministry out of the building, getting onto their turf. John was a youth pastor, a youth ministry, and we realized how important it was to go to their track stuff and go to their concerts and seeing them outside of church. I can't tell you how many kids are shocked to see me in the supermarket. They think I live at church. They don't know that I actually have a home that I go to. And all of this can relate to our teachers. When we were in school, we thought it was really weird to imagine our teachers having a life. Really? They do that, you know? So I want to go where my kids are. I go to their schools all the time. In fact, tomorrow I get to speak at one of the Christian schools here. And I love getting out of the building and going to the kids. So I want to talk about ways that you guys, especially with COVID, and for you guys in the Northwest who will probably be locked down for another 6 months, Idaho, you can relax. You got yours covered. But let's talk about ways, creative ways where you can take ministry out of the church and into the kids' lives. Jesus didn't, Jesus was one of the very few people who allowed the people to come to him. It's the whole Field of Dreams thing. Build it and they will come. That's not ministry. Jesus went out and did his LPDs, his leather personnel carriers, right? He went out and walked around. He took ministry to them. And that's what made him different than the Pharisees who made you come to him, to the temple. He was the first circuit preacher, if you will. So let's talk about ways of getting ministry outside. So here are just a couple ideas that we've done in the last year with Kidstown. So we've done something called monthly deliveries. Monthly deliveries. We find whether it's just mailing a letter off to them, whether it's delivering stuff to them. We had a lot of fun with this. And the idea wasn't just to make sure that they heard from us, but to give them a reason to respond back. We always made challenges. Okay, we're sending you these stickers. Make a diorama out of these stickers and send us a picture. And then we use bribery, because bribery is a good thing, right? We buy $5 Dairy Queen cards. And the first 5 kids who respond to this email will get a Dairy Queen card. That's like gold to them. You guys understand the difference between extrinsic and intrinsic. Again, I'm getting technical with some of you. Children, junior high and younger, work on an extrinsic motivation. They do because they get. We bribe them, basically, is what it is, right? Junior high, senior high, they start transferring into an intrinsic. They do things for the value that they receive from doing it. They don't have to be bribed. How many of you have Awana programs? Anybody have Awana? Anybody know what Awana is? Awana is a fantastic children's program because you memorize stuff, you get badges, all right? When they tried to stretch Awana to junior high and senior high, that's when it started to get weak because kids don't want badges. They don't want to wear uniforms. They're all different. So that's intrinsic versus extrinsic. You get to work with extrinsic, which means you can bribe kids to do stuff and they love it, all right? So we did monthly deliveries. I'm going to share a couple ideas with you, okay? First one we did was our ding dong ditch. Anybody do ding dong ditch before growing up as a kid? No, don't tell me that. Great, yeah, junior high guy says, yeah, I've done that. Where you ring the doorbell and you run. Well, we rang the doorbell and ran, but we left a box of ding dongs out in front. Now, understand it's 110 degrees here and ding dongs don't last very long in that temperature. So we only ran a short distance away to make sure they answered the door. And if they didn't, we went and picked it up and brought it back later. All right. But the ding dong ditch simply says, we missed you, love Kidstown Ministries. And inside were ding dongs. And I had to go to 4 different stores because I've got over 120 kids. So I got to tell you, it's hard to find 120 boxes of ding dongs. But I had staff members coming from different cities and we all got them all together and we put it together. I want to show you a cute little, this is just a short video of part of our ding dong ditch. Let's see if this works. All right, so this goes on for another 2 minutes where we showed a bunch of the kids and stuff like that, and then we put it up online for all the kids to see it, and we had a lot of fun with Ding Dong Ditch. It cost us the money for the ding dongs, like $3 a box, but it was one of the first things we did right out of the gate for COVID to let our kids know that we love them and we miss them. Let's see, what else did we do? Oh, the Quarantine Olympics. Remember when toilet paper was a thing, right? So we did a week-long quarantine Olympics. Every day was a different challenge. So one of them was to build a fort in your living room. One was for your whole family to build a human pyramid, or your whole family to dress up in a theme. Watch one of those, get your whole family, take a picture of them all watching church online. One of them was go sing a song to your neighbor. All right. You see the kids up in the upper right-hand corner, they got up dressed all up and they went over and sang and danced for their neighbors. All right. Their neighbors just happened to be their cousins, so it worked. But every day on Facebook or email, I sent out the new challenge at 9 a.m. and they had all day long to do it, take a picture and send it back to me. And then we surprised the winners with a case of toilet paper and a box of Krispy Kreme donuts. Do you have Krispy Kreme donuts up there? Yeah, they're like Scooby snacks, man. I can get kids to do anything for a Scooby snack. So, and at the end, we went out, we took pictures of the three teams, the three families that won. That was one whole week. And we do these once a month. So for 1 week, we had the Quarantine Olympics. Kids loved it. Family movie night, all right? I went to I had a movie theater in the area contact me. And they're closed down here in California. Are they? You can't go to movie theaters up there, right? They're still kind of closed. Okay. Contact your local movie theater and ask them if they got any stuff they need to get rid of that's been sitting on their shelves and about to expire. I had a movie theater manager call me and say, "Hey, Pastor, I've got some stuff here. Would you want it?" I'm like, "Well, I'll take anything for free, sure." So I got a pickup truck. We went over there. He gave me $8,000 worth of merchandise. I've got 200 of these Mulan popcorn tins, 36 cases of soda, all right? Candy out the wazoo. I mean, I'm gonna have a diabetic kids ministry here in a couple of years at this rate. But we bought a case of microwave popcorn. We put a microwave popcorn in each one of these kits. And then we gave them a little card, and the card says, "Hey, since you can't go to the movie theater, we're bringing the movies to you. Pick your favorite movie, and as a family, sit down and watch it tonight. We'll provide everything else." And here was the feedback. Take a picture of the movie you're watching on TV and send it to us, and we'll try and guess what movie you're watching. Now, quite frankly, I thought this was going to be an easy one. Little Mermaid, a couple of Disney movies. I've seen them all. I should be able to pick these up, right? No, this is ridiculously hard. And then to make it harder, I've got parents who are just masochists. So they take pictures of the closing credits and send them to me. So I've got like 5 or 6 of my staff members trying to figure out what movie this is. But the idea was that we were interacting with them and getting them to interact with us. What else did we do? Oh, Christmas stockings. All right. I bought a bunch of Christmas stockings. I downloaded this little cutout nativity scene. I had the kids color the nativity scene, and then they sent pictures of it back to us. And again, we picked 5 out of the 40 or 50 pictures that came back and awarded some Dairy Queen cards to them. Do I have anything else? Oh, turkey cards. This was a no-brainer. I bought the stationery for like $15 on Amazon. I typed up this little letter and printed it out. I gave the kids these like turkey stickers that I also got on Amazon. And I told them, "Here's some stickers. Make a picture, send me a picture of you with the turkey." We did this obviously for Thanksgiving, and it was fantastic. I got lots of feedback. All the parents loved it because it gave the kids something to do. It was a lot of fun. I think that was the last one. Okay. There are tons of stuff out there. And if you have Facebook, there are a lot of great Facebook Kid Mid Ministry type things. Get on those. Steal these. Half of these I stole from other places and took credit for it. All right. The next thing, letters and postcards. Never underestimate the power of a postage stamp. Kids love getting mail. They never get mail. We get mail as adults, and most of the time it's bills, and we don't like them. But when was the last time you got a handwritten letter? Okay? Kids love postcards. They love getting mail. They love when mom comes in and says, "Hey, you got mail." And that's not, AOL or anything. That's really getting mail. So here's what we do. I'll show you some of these. This is a happy birthday postcard. This I send these out to my staff. You're awesome. You really make a difference. This is one of my favorites. A little frog says, "We miss you." Do those show up backwards to you? That's weird. They show up backwards to me. That's not a different language. That's English. All of these are Amazon. I mean, I buy 100 of these things for like $12, and then you get postcard stamps. So I periodically will pick 1/3 of my ministry and send them out a postcard. Now, my hand would cramp up because I have 120 kids. My hand would cramp up. I just run them through my little printer. I print out the little message. I sign my name to them. The kids don't know it. They think if they're getting their own individual ones. Now, if you have 2 or 3 kids in the same family, send them different cards. They'll figure it out. But they love getting mail. And it cost me a whole $20 to send it all out. And it's one way to stay in touch with them. And by the way, your staff members love it too. And your parents. Hey, I'm really praying for you. I know this has been a tough time. Send them. Never underestimate the power of a postage stamp. I can't tell you how many times I've had parents come up and say, man, I got that card just at the right time. I do this with our youth leaders in our district. I've got a stack of $5 Starbucks cards. And I just send out a little note of encouragement. I pick 3 or 4 a month. Just say, hey, I want you to know that you guys are doing awesome. You're a rock star. We really appreciate the ministry that you have to your children. Here's $5. Go get a caffeine jolt on us, you know? So never underestimate the power of a postage stamp. How about this one? Family activities at your church. So some of you said trunk or treat. That's awesome. Those are great. Harvest festivals. We did a dunk tank and snow cone night. Now, granted, it's warm here. You can't do that often there. But we spent about $300 to have a snow cone truck come over to the church. And families came in and got a chance to dunk at the pastors, get a snow cone. And we all just kind of hung out, socially distanced outside. But it was just a super event. Next month, we're doing a family picnic with a cornhole tournament. And just right after church, allowing our families to just hang out. And I got a Boy Scout troop that's a part of our church, and they're going to cook all the food for us, and hamburgers and hot dogs. One of my responsibilities here with the children's ministry is also community outreach. So I try to schedule every month some type of an event for the families to get together and celebrate. Another one we're going to start up is Take Home Fridays. This one's easy because you don't have to go everywhere. The parents will come to you. Create little kits of craft bags. And then tell the parents between 4 and 6 o'clock on Friday afternoon, you can come with your kids. You get to say hi to some of the youth leaders, the children leaders, and we're going to give you a bag full of craft. And it could be, you could buy these things from Amazon completely redone, or if you've got crafty people who want to put the felt and the toothpicks and the popsicle sticks together, and then give them a little instruction sheet. And then when they're done, take a picture, send it to us. We'd love to see what you've done. And these are so simple. You can do these for $2 or $3 a piece. And if you haven't got a lot of kids, man, that's a super way of doing this. Parents are getting back to church. They remember where the church is. You go, oh, that's right. I remember coming here. It's a great way of getting them involved. And the last one, who was it that said they did a VBS, a virtual VBS? Bobby? Yeah. A lot of work, and it was probably pretty tough, right? Not quite what you were hoping it would be. Let me encourage you to try this. A backyard Bible club. This is what we're going to do this year. We're going to pick 5 houses in various areas of our community. Now, at Northgate, we focus on a 1-mile radius of our church. I've got 3,200 homes in walking distance of my building. And I can't get 250 kids in my building, even after COVID. People are just going to be kind of weirded out about that. So what I'm going to do, instead of going to all the expense of creating giant cardboard cutouts and redecorating my sanctuary and all those other things that we get crazy about when it comes to VBS, I'm going to create mini VBSs, a craft, a snack, a Bible study, a game, and worship, 5 different things. And I'm going to get a lot of my high school students involved in this, and they're going to lead the games, and they're going to lead the craft time, and the parents, the host families are going to provide the snacks. And what we're going to do is we're going to target this house in this neighborhood for this week. We're going to meet from 11 to 2, just 3 hours. And I'm going to have that group of people go to the house, and all the kids from that neighborhood community get to come to that VBS. And I'm going to repeat that 4 or 5 times throughout the summer. And then at the end of summer, when COVID is just a nightmare behind us, I'm going to have one night where we get all of those groups to come together at church and sing the songs and do some skits and play some games and repeat their memory verses and celebrate that. I'm getting them out. I'm not a big VBS fan because of all the work that goes into it. And I don't feel like there's a lot of residual success from it. So I'm going to go where the kids are and let all those kids become missionaries to their neighborhood. So that one kid who's going to host that event for all of his friends in that neighborhood, he's going to be known as the Christian kid. That family is going to be known as a family who loves God and is willing to do this. And the parents of all those kids are going to have a connection now that they can go to when tough things get rough. They might not ever come to my church, but they know they got a neighbor who loves God and who's willing to sacrifice and have a whole bunch of kids come over and tear out their yard. So that's what we're going to try this year. And I would encourage you, take your VBS, whatever you're going to do for your VBS, you can use all of that equipment. Or borrow someone else's church who did that one last year. I never recommend buying VBS. I'm always a used VBS guy because I like to take their stuff and add my stuff to it and work that way. Okay, so that's the end of my spiel. I told Hannah it would take 25 minutes and it took 45. That tells you I'm a pastor. So in closing, I'd love to hear from you what you think. And I appreciate your patience through this. This is where you unmute yourself. There you go. Some of you are okay.
I have a question because you said you have like 100 kids. So right now I have 330 kids. So how do you like to do like a ding dong ditch sort of thing? I mean, like, would you just pick and choose certain families or I struggle because I'm like, I don't want to leave someone out, but like, how do you like manage everyone?
First of all, I'm a geek and I have a database. And I maintain my database like it was the Bible itself. And I use that database for birthdays. I track all my kids on it. When you come into Kidstown, you check in, you get a label goes on you with an ID number. Some of you maybe do that. If you don't have some type of database, you're already behind the game. So now I take that database and I print out all the kids' addresses. Because I'm a geek, I go to Google Maps, I map out routes. And then I've got seven routes for my 100 kids. And I have staff members come in and take it, and each route has 3 to 7 kids on it. So they come and deliver those for me. I can't do it myself.
Right.
The larger your ministry, I'm assuming that it's also a larger budget, a larger staff. I'm hoping that you stay, well, now that's where you got to work. You got to get a staff together. So go out there and paint the fence.
Right.
Some of these you're not going to be able to do right away, but it's a process to get there. But God bless you for having over 300 kids. Some of you are going, oh, that would be awesome. I'd love 300 kids. You're out of your mind.
It's a lot of work.
The best church had 300 people in the church, right? So those of you with 20 kids, think of the impact you're having. That's awesome. All right, good. Okay, what else?
So a question, do you let the parents know in advance that you're going to do such an event?
Yeah, because we do a lot of delivering when parents are usually at work, but the kids aren't. We're not in school. We're doing, online learning and all that stuff. So along with that list that I give each one of my staff members, each one of the Google Maps, I write the parent's name and their phone number. And I tell them, call mom and dad first. Maybe a babysitter's going to be there. Maybe they're at their grandma's or something like that. Call and say, hey, I'm going to be delivering a movie tin today to little Kevin. I just want to make sure someone was there. And my staff members, when they take their route, it might take them 3 days to get them all out. A lot of them take their kids with them to do the deliveries. So it's getting their kids involved and they get to see some of their school friends that they haven't seen in a while. So there's a lot of benefit of having them do all the work. Does that help?
Say that we do this at our church, and we have right around 300 kids, and we have a team. We call them the C3 neighbors, and they deliver kits all over the city every month that go along with our online ministry that we're creating, and it works great. And not only that, when we launched it, everyone in their first kit got a picture of their C3 neighbor, a refrigerator magnet, and all of our neighbors are really intentional about praying for their families that are in their pod. And it's been a really beautiful thing. We've seen families find connection and relationship through those neighbors who are taking on, kind of an owner mentality. And so it makes it easier on us.
Great. That's a great example. I'm assuming your name is Grade. I didn't want to.
Oh,
Last-
my name's Angie. I'm just on our grade school Zoom account.
I assumed that. I was just playing with you. Yeah, Angie, fantastic idea. I mean, steal that, everybody, steal that. Go back to your staff and act like you made that up, all right? Get families involved, because remember, our job is to equip them to do the job. And then you reach so many more, all right? And again, those of you who are sitting there with 3 to 5 kids in your program or 30 in your program, understand you're actually better off than Angie and Jeanette, because they're freaking out. How do I do this that big? You can have an impact with 30 or 300. It just requires being organized and having that team in place to help you do that. That's that staff leg of our tripod. All 3 fingers in there. There it is. All right. Excellent. Great job. What else? All right. If you have any questions, or if you want the resources, everything I've talked about, I mean, we live in an Amazon world. You can go get everything on Amazon. Once again, I strongly recommend that if Disney ran your children's ministry, even if you're not a big reader, it's got pictures, all right? I got lots of pictures. So it also talks about designing your youth room to be more kid friendly. It talks about the approach as people come in, what they see of your children's ministry, and a lot of great ideas and a lot of pictures from big churches and little churches about stuff you can do. And again, it's like $9. I mean, go tell your pastor you need this. I buy them in bulk, okay? I give them out to every church that I go do a Spark meeting with. So if you want to fly me up to Idaho or whatever, Idaho, not where you're closed and snowing. But seriously, get 1, get 3 of them, hand them out to your other leaders, let them read them. Say, hey, what did you think about this? Or this really sparked my attention. What do you think? Get them involved in leading the ministry as well. Cool. All right, so all those resources, all those notes, Hannah has those. If you want to get in touch with her, she'll make them available to you. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you letting me ramble on for a while.
Thank you. We really appreciate you being here. It's awesome. Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for sticking on. For those of you who did, really appreciate you and appreciate seeing all of you. Just a reminder, we do our Kidmin Connects in 2 weeks from today, same time. And that's just a chance to chat among one another. So if you haven't been on one, don't be scared. And then next month, our topic is on ministry to special needs kids and families, kiddos and families. So I'm pretty pumped on that one too. So fun things. You guys are amazing. Houston, thank you again for just all your ideas and your expertise and sharing with us how God's been using you in children's ministry. It's awesome. So cool. All right, friends. Thank you. You're amazing.
Hang in there, guys. You're doing a great job.
You
really
are.
appreciate what you do. You make a huge difference in your church.
Yep, you do. So appreciate you. Happy Tuesday, friends.